with Murshidah today from Coaching for Change on Love and Respect. And Murshidah, can you tell everybody where you are from?
I am from Singapore. I'm currently living and doing my business here in Kuala Lumpur. And yeah, I've been here for more than 15 years. So this is home to me right now. Yeah.
And can you tell everyone what you do every day and what your everyday looks like, and tell them a little bit more about Coaching for Change?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And my daily routine changes every day, you know, so I don't have a particular routine because I'm someone who loves to do things on the spot. If I decide to incorporate some, like going to the stables as part of my morning routine, that is what I do. So I wake up really early. I wake up around 5 o'clock and 5 a.m. And right now I also hold a clubhouse every Monday and Thursday at 5:30 a.m. on gratitude and manifestation of intentions. And yeah, all are welcome to come in there. And that's where we ground ourselves for the week. And for the next couple of days, what we hope to manifest. And then after that, I get on to my prayers and sending my daughter to school. Actually, the driver picks her up, so I send her downstairs, get her off to school, and then I start the day at home, that's where my office is. And most of my clients are from all over the world, and we interact online. And yeah, because sometimes, you know, it depends on where I slot my clients in and what I feel like I want to do that day. If I feel like I want to go and spend time with the horses at the stables, I'll go there the most of the mornings, or I'll go to the pool or the gym. And I'll slot in my coaching clients, you know, virtually where I would like to, you know, my day to be like. So Coaching for Change is actually a tagline that we just started during COVID. Love and Respect is the company that I've been running for, well, almost 20 years right now. It started with a corporate training company, and it's still running in Singapore as a corporate training company. But during COVID, we rebranded it because we were coaching a lot of business owners, women entrepreneurs, or women who want to start a business. And they all want to do good, because the people that I coach are people who are very heart-centered. They feel so passionately about the world and solving the world's problems, like in the environment, whether it's taking care of animals, protecting animals, women's issues, women's empowerment, parenting. So whatever their heart's intentions is for the people or planet, I work with them to build a business where they'll be able to support all these causes as well. So it comes along together with their branding. As they grow their business, someone else, perhaps from the marginalized community, or someone, you know, the environment is protected because more of their products and more of their services are being used and created. So that's the work that I do. So right now we have both men and women in our communities from around the world. Most of them are very heart-centered, and I support them with, you know, money mindset issues, because sometimes heart-centered people just want to give. They give so much and they don't give enough to themselves. So that's what I also support them with, to make sure that, you know, they're, you know, that like they're full, like they're full of the money, the income, the happiness, so that they can give more of themselves to others as well.
How long have you been working from home? Is this just a COVID thing, or has it been for a long time?
It has been for a long time, since 1997. 1997 was the time I started my first company, and that's a conference organizing company. And at that time, there were a lot of IT companies and the dot-coms, you know, they're starting up. And I started an events company where I connected angel investors with startups and dot-coms at that time. So most of them are from the US, and I was in Singapore at that time. So I left my last corporate job, and I told my dad, because I was quite young at that time. I was in my mid-20s when I first started my company. And my dad was like very supportive. He renovated the house and just built one room just for me to work. And that was my office. So, and that was before people were aware of all of this, working from home. People were always going to the office. So I was like, like somebody's doing something differently at that time. And people thought I was strange because I was like in my room and talking out loudly and doing stuff and laughing, and there was no one else, and it was all online. Yeah, because we were on the phone. Internet is not like as fast as now, that it's slow, but if we had to write long correspondences, it was by email or we send by fax. And most of the time when I talk to people, it's not like how we talk right now. I use the phone, and I use a card phone that is, that supports like long distance calls, and it's not so expensive. So that was how I was running my business for a long time, until I started to expand that business. And that was when I had to hire people, I had to get new partners in, and I learned so much, Mary. That was a big learning curve for me. I lost a lot of money because I drew in the wrong clients. I was not educated on expansion. So when SARS happened at that time, and that time when I grew my business, I had to go to, actually I didn't have to, but I thought I had to move to an office building where we had a whole space, a whole floor, where we had staff and everything, and everyone worked there, including myself, but I wasn't very happy. And when SARS happened at that time, yeah, I loved my freedom, right? So when SARS happened, it was a big shock for me. I was not prepared for a pandemic. Now I would say I'm smarter, but during SARS, it was like, all of my shows, all of my events were stopped indefinitely. A lot of events were canceled, so we couldn't travel, and my staff couldn't make any sales, and I had to pay them. And I was down. I had to let go all of my stuff to close my business, and it was $150,000 in debt. So that I really had to start again from the bottom up. And
so in
that was that.
Yeah, in that case, when there was SARS, did you end up folding that business and closing it down, or did you find a way to rework it?
I couldn't find a way to rework it because,
okay.
I just didn't feel aligned with the whole business model in the first place. And I didn't feel aligned with my partner's goals at that time. I mean, we were very good friends, but just didn't feel aligned with the goals. So I just let go of my share, and and that was when I had all of these bills, debts that I incurred, that I had to personally settle. So that was a tough time for me. Yeah, so I was down to minus $150,000. I had to learn to start all over again.
And so then you shifted to this new path of love and respect.
Oh yes, there is a story behind that, because during that time, love and respect only came in about couple of years after my marriage. So at that time I was single, and then when I folded the company and everything, I met my husband ironically during that time. And you know how law of attraction works, right? When you are vibrating at a certain energy, you receive the kind of people with that same energy. So I met my husband at the time when I was broke, and he was broke as well. So he lost his business also. A lot of money was lost because of some bad investments. And somehow we connected, and we wanted to get married, right? So at that time, somehow things happened, because I think because of the intention, it was love, and I believe strongly love is a very, very powerful energy. And without money, even because the intention was very purposeful, we wanted to get married, right? Everything fell into place. And not only did I get a very beautiful wedding in Singapore, he's Malaysian, so we had a very beautiful wedding in Malaysia as well, 2 weddings. And during that time also, but because after that, we had to rebuild our life, and we both had to start from the ground up again. I discovered 2 types of people, when I was broke and I was facing challenges and I couldn't get a lot of things up and running. There are 2 types of people. One is the kind that, when they see that you have problems or challenges, they make life more difficult for you. They say hurtful things.
It is
and
true.
They try to block, and they block things. Like you want to achieve something, and they say no, you can't do this. And it was tough for me, And then there was another type of person that just wants to help. How can I help you? How can I support you? And I will be like, oh, how much does it cost? How much do I have to pay you back? And they're like, no, this this is for you. I'm just helping. And they're not asking for anything else in return. And I was like, wow. And I told my husband at that time, you know, when we get out of this mess that we're in, this financial mess that we're in, let's be that second type of person where, you know, you just help people and contribute, add value, because I know how it felt like when people say that to me, you know, and just want to help. And it's okay. This is from my heart. And he got a job in Malaysia. We moved to Kuala Lumpur. We were 2 years staying in Singapore, trying to build our business. It didn't happen successfully. And I had a young baby at that time. She was only 6 months when my husband got a job in Kuala Lumpur. So we all moved here. And then 2 weeks into the job, he was fired. And at that time, he was, you know, he was not paid. Yeah, and the company says, you know, it was a trial period, so we're not obligated to pay you. I don't see a fit. So 2 weeks of his time there, he wasn't paid, and we were asked to leave the house that we were staying in, and we were given 2 weeks to leave the house. And when I checked my wallet, I only had like 2 ringgit. 2 ringgit is like 50 cents US, right? And that's all the money I had. And my husband has a few $100s, but a few hundred ringgit, which is less than $100 in the US. So that was like, you know, something that we were asked to leave, or we'll be homeless, right? And we had to create some money. Otherwise, you know, I'll be with a baby, and we, you know, I did feel right to ask money from relatives, because, you know, there are some people who were like, doesn't like us because we were broke and all that. Yeah. So that was when I discovered the power of love and respect. The energy of love is so powerful because of that, my intention. And I said, I'm not going to be one of those homeless families by the streets. I cannot envision my mind like that. So I said, let's see what I have, right? So when I got back to the house that we were staying in, and I looked into the storeroom, and I found 3-in-1 coffee, you know, those packet coffees, Nescafe 3-in-1 coffees, and crackers. And I was so lit up. I saw those and I was like, oh, we have food. I remember that. And I was, you know, I made myself a hot cup of coffee, had crackers, and I was so happy. Yeah.
Yes.
And when I was in that state of joy, I opened my laptop and I said, okay, let's figure out what are we going to do now? And I turned on my laptop and I found this database, this Microsoft Excel file on my desktop, which maybe I have overlooked it, but I'd never seen it before. It was there on my desktop, and it was called CEOs in Kuala Lumpur, CEOs. And when I opened the Excel file, I found the name and the email address and the company of that of the CEO, of the Chief Executive Officer. And I said, when did I have these names and database? And I think it was because my last staff possibly keyed in, you know. So what I did was I just sent, there was about 100 over names. So I just sent 300 over names. So I just sent out all of those emails. And when I sent out an email to them, I just asked them a question like, how can I support you? I didn't ask for a job. I didn't ask for, can you please help me? I'm struggling. I have no money. I went and I said, okay, I come from this background. I've done this kind of events. I'd love to see how I can work with you. Can we arrange for a meeting? Nobody replied on that day, but one company called Napoleon Hill Associates, the publisher of Napoleon Hill. Yeah. And it's a woman. The CEO is a woman, and she's also a lawyer. She runs another law firm, and this is her other side business, her passion business. And she sent me an email and she said, yes, come to my office. This is the address. I've got half an hour, 9 a.m. to 9:30 the next day. So I was like, yay, I was so happy. And I got the appointment. I brought my 6-month-old baby at that time to meet her. My husband sent us there. And then I went up to the meeting room with the baby, and she was so shocked. It's like, oh, what, you know, a woman with a baby, but she was okay with it. You know? Then my baby was crawling all over the meeting room. And then and then again, I asked her questions. I asked her, like, tell me about your business. Wow, I'm so impressed by you. And this is something I notice in people. When, and just like what you're doing here, Mary, when people are telling their story, they get so lit up. When they're telling something that's passionate, that is really close to their heart, they get so lit up. And I saw that she was so lit up with Napoleon Hill. Oh, think and grow rich. Whatever your mind thinks, you can manifest that. She was educating me at the same time, because I was not aware of law of attraction and energy work and all that. I was not aware. So I was like, wow, 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 wow. And then the last question I asked her was, how can I support you? What help do you need? And because this I learned from, you know, the people who had love, right? How can I support you? What you need? And she said, yes, do you know anyone who would buy a trainer program like Science of Success? It's like 4,000 ringgit or 3,000 ringgit in Malaysia. That's like less than $1,000 US, right? For a whole recording, but it's purely online to get that certification to be a trainer. And I was like, 3,000 ringgit, nobody wants to pay. She said, no, people would rather pay 10,000 ringgit, but with a trainer, you know, with somebody there to coach them. But she has not found someone who's interested in an online course. And this was back in 2006. So online courses were not so into people's psyche. They didn't get it. Yeah, and it's a long process. You have to submit videos, you have to submit papers and all that. And she said she had a challenge selling this. So what I did was I asked her, do you want me to help you sell and see who I can, who would like to buy? And she said, yes, please. So she was trying to ask me whether I would want to buy. Of course, I had no money at that time, but I didn't say that. I said, I'll help you. I'll help people. I'll help you find people. And I didn't ask for any commission. I only wanted to like her, like me. I wanted her to be able to remember me. So I said, the only way people will remember is when I can add value to them in their lives. And that's what I did. I used my old Nokia phone and SMS Singaporeans, because she said Malaysians didn't want to buy it. So I SMS Singaporeans who would want to train the trainer package for like 3,000 ringgit. And nobody replied, nobody got interested until one insurance agent, she's building her team, and she messaged me and she said, is it 3,000 Singapore dollars or in ringgit? And I said, it's ringgit. Then she's like, wow, so cheap. She transferred the money to me immediately to my bank account in Malaysia. So I took the money, I went to the office, and the lady was like, wow, this morning you met me and afternoon you already have a sale. She was so impressed. So I gave her the money. Yes, this is the order, this is the address to send to Singapore. And she was like, here, you keep this 1,000 ringgit. So she gave me 1,000. That's like, how much is that in the US? I think it's about 200 plus US dollars. And that was like, in one day, I got that 200 US dollars, right? So I was like, wow, I was so happy. So when I went out to get myself a nice oily Indian noodles to eat, I really celebrated. Again, high vibe. And then I started messaging people, and you know, if I can sell one and she's giving me 1,000 ringgit commission, you know, what if I connected with more people? So I did that. The next 2 days, there was no calls, there was no response in my emails. And then the Singaporean who bought the package said, wow, this is fantastic. I received the package. This is value for money. Thank you, Murshidah. I really appreciate this, you know. So I asked her that same question. What help do you need? Is there anything I can support you with? And she said, hey, my clients are high-end people. Do you know anybody rich in Malaysia who would be able to, you know, be a potential customer of mine? And I said, yeah, the CEO of Napoleon Hill. Why don't you meet her, you know? And then I fixed the appointment, and the Napoleon Hill CEO said, yes, of course, because this is her first customer from Singapore, right? She was like, wow, who would want to meet your own customer? So the meeting was very easily set up. And I was there. I saw the two women were talking to each other, and they were both friendly, and I couldn't understand a word because they were both speaking in Chinese, in Mandarin. And then it was like, after the meeting, we left the office, and my Singaporean friend told me, thank you, Murshidah. She knows exactly the product that I was selling. Only nobody asked her for the sale. So most likely I'll be able to close her. Can I give you your commission upfront? She said that to me. And I was like, oh, there is a commission? So I'm like, oh, thank you. So I felt appreciated. So I thought it was like a couple of $100 or something. So I left it as that. And she said, I'll bank it before I go back to Singapore. She banked it into my account. And the next morning when I checked my account, there was like 20,000 ringgit. That was like $5,000, you know. So from 2 ringgit to 20,000 ringgit in less than 2 weeks, I got that. And I was like, what did I do? And that was how I started to package all of these things. There was love there, because first thing, I didn't complain. I was thinking of, I'm going to keep my family together. I'm not just going to leave my husband. Like, you know, why do you bring us into this mess and kind of thing. Right. I was thinking, I want to keep my family together no matter what. And there was joy, especially when I found 3-in-1 coffee and crackers. And I was in that joyful, happy, grateful state. It was love. And there was love. What I noticed is love cannot come without respect, because I love my daughter, but if I don't respect her, there's going to be problems. She loves me. there's no respect, there's gonna be problems. I love my husband, it's the same thing. So love and respect coming together. And that's how Love and Respect was born and started. We started a company here in Malaysia, and we started talking about love and respect all the time to business owners and corporate people. And it was quite another challenge for especially organizations to accept love in business. They said love.
I was just going to ask you, how did they take that? How did that go over? Because those are two topics you usually don't hear talked about hardcore in corporate America for sure, but also in other major corporations throughout the globe.
Exactly.
So can you explain a little bit more about that and what the gist of it is, like what the real crux of it is for people to understand? And
I didn't know that. And I was like, who doesn't understand love and respect? And we had a different tagline at that time. It was not coaching for change. It was foundations of an empowered world. So it's very generic. We had parents coming to us, or I want to get closer to my teens, so can you teach us how to have love and respect? So we had all that programs, but it was like not expensive. It was really low price, so make it easy for people. We had couples therapy programs with love and respect, so people get that. But when it comes to businesses and organizations, and I talk about love and respect, the HRs at that time, the human resource, were all like, "Ooh, no, love, so dangerous."
They're like, not in the workplace.
Yeah, like, no. And the first thing they think of is love. It's like, oh, there's gonna be, problems with men and women in the organization, and all that. And then I'm like, no. Love is about, and I tried to explain. I said, no, this is not really getting in there. So when I go to corporations, yes, obviously the company was called Love and Respect. We had a different logo at that time, but it's obviously Love and Respect. But when I propose something, I talk about team bonding. I talk about customer service excellence. I talk about organizational excellence, overcoming office politics and coming up positive, corporate image and empowerment. So these people they were like, oh, okay. So when I teach and when I train, that's where I talk about love and respect. So love and respect comes in only after I close the deal. And then now, I think 10 years down the road, people call me to say, can you talk about love and respect, in the company? So they get it now. Yeah, because I was visible. I got myself on television. I made sure that I wanted to really share, because I had all of this awareness. Yeah. I was running very masculine in the way I was doing things. So it's very logical, very, data driven. And I realized the power of love. People don't realize this. And this came from, a very nurturing feminine energy that all of us has, despite your gender. Right. We have that. Yeah. So that's how love and respect came about. And that's how we started. Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. Just the fact that you can walk into a corporate world and have that conversation is a beautiful thing. And especially right now, given everything that we've seen. So I'll speak a little bit in relation to the United States throughout the last 2 years, but of course before that, but throughout the last, I would say, year during the pandemic, things heightened. And we saw a lot in relation to racism, sexism. We've seen it almost every topic that could come out. We've seen it. And the love and respect in relation to corporate, or in relation to politics, or in relation to all the other areas, including the household, but not limited to just home life or married life. Being able to have those conversations about love and respect everywhere else is so important and valuable on so many levels. It only by being able to have conversations about love and respect is where we actually see the shift and change occur, where racism stops and ends, where sexism stops and ends, where all of the isms, the negative isms, end. That's where the change begins. It's always with love and respect. And if that's missing, then human dignity and someone's value and worth aren't coming into play at all. They're also missing, is my point. So for you to be able to have that conversation, I think that is such a blessing and such a powerful thing. So powerful. And clearly you're doing God's work. It's, it's stuff that has to be done and said, it's things that have to be learned and things that have to be changed. We can't stay in this dynamic of everyone against each other, everyone out for themselves. And it seems like for a long time, not just in this country, but in other countries, that was the way people were operating and the way people were functioning in the world, which is one reason why the pandemic has been so bad and so much to the level in all the countries that it's been at. But by creating that shift and focusing on love and respect, you really open up other people's hearts to help create the changes that need to happen so that everyone is treated with human dignity, value, and worth, and truly valued for who they are, just simply who they are.
Absolutely.
So that they also can feel that gratitude. It's like you're creating that whole energy shift even by having the conversation. You're able to open them up to gratitude, to even be able to experience it, because right now some people don't even have that, and they don't know how to experience it or to know that it's a real thing, and something that you can experience in your life, and that it actually does change your life, just like love and respect change your life, to be able to have gratitude. So thank you for having those conversations and for doing the work that you do, because if you weren't doing it, things would be a lot worse. It's because of people who are doing work like you and yourself that we are able to create the changes that we can create in the world and bring people up to that higher level of energy and higher level of existence where they feel really respected and loved and cherished. So I know that was kind of long what I just said, but I'm going to draw you back to part of the beginning of our conversation. We were talking about what your everyday looks like and how you were working from home. How has your life changed during COVID itself? And what are some difficult things for you that happened during COVID? That's my first thing. My second thing, and I'll repeat it, so don't worry. The one that comes after that is 3 positive changes. So you don't have to just focus on the negative. You're going to talk about the positive too.
Yeah,
but we want to definitely hear how your life has changed during COVID and what it looks like for you.
Okay. I love this question, the challenges and the solutions. And first of all, before I get to this, I want to acknowledge you, Mary, for holding space to have this conversation, because
thank you.
This, and before we recorded this, you mentioned that it's going to be out there, it's going to put in various platforms. And I'm like, oh, that is so beautiful. More voices are heard, more stories are told. And that's one of the things that, COVID has led us to do this, because we wouldn't have really met. Most of us were busy outside and doing stuff outside and not really connecting with people across the world through this beautiful internet that we can, this technology that we can communicate and build and raise ourselves and even learn on how we can improve our own lives here in this.
So there is one other thing then, and we can talk about the positives in a minute, but the other really important thing about COVID that some people don't recognize is that it's caused us to slow down enough to actually have the important conversations. So even to be able to sit here and have this conversation and multiple conversations that other people have had also throughout this time, they wouldn't even have been had. The conversations never would have happened if we weren't faced with the pandemic, or the challenges of COVID, or, the challenges that have come up along the way during this time. Anyway, go ahead. So your challenges.
No, this is beautiful. Yeah. Okay, I can remember quite vividly. This was last year in March 2020. Okay, fast forward from the stories of challenges and all that before. I was like really, I was being mentored by Gina Devi. I think that's how we met, right? In her platform. I was in her Queen programs quite the high end coaching program that I was with her, and I was really growing my coaching business. So we had plans to go to Moscow because we had all these travel plans. I think last year was Morocco, Italy. We went to India. Yeah, we went to India as for a program, and then from India I had my own sessions. I did my own social impact in January last year, and then I was really looking at, wow, we're gonna make this much money. This is the goal. I was discussing with my husband because he's my business partner, and we got really psyched. We're so excited, and then we hear all of this China, what's happening in China, and we kind of like, oh, it's far away, it's not gonna happen. And then things started coming into, and we saw some shifts in. I wanted to go to Miami because there was a program there, and I already had another event that I was going to host in Miami, and I have my friends there to organize as well, and I couldn't get a flight out. That was last year in March, and it keeps changing and changing. And then after that, the announcement came in Malaysia, lockdown. COVID is serious, and nobody's traveling anymore. And I was at that point, and first of all, I didn't think of other people, how it affected other people. It really affected me. And at that point, Mary, I was thinking, all my dreams were just gone just like that overnight, right? All the plans, all the money, poof, no money already inside because everything is canceled indefinitely. And then, but then again, that gratitude started coming in. I was crying for 3 days. And my husband,
were you crying because of, were you crying because of all the changes, or were you crying because of gratitude, or were you just trying to process?
All of them, all of the above, all of the above.
Okay.
But if you hear my husband's interviews, people do interview him as well. He said that 3 days he keeps hearing me crying, and I was crying on my prayer mat, and it was exactly that, Mary. All of these emotions that it just didn't sink in until that, like, first of all, money, right? My business, what is going on now? My business is mainly retreats and coaching at clients' offices, doing training, on site at hotels and nice places. And it's like, what is happening to my business? That was why I cried. Money gone. That was why I cried. And then the gratitude started coming in, because you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, oh my God, if I had gone to Miami, I'll be stuck there. I won't be able to come back. I'm Malaysian, I'm Singaporean. This is Malaysia. So coming into Malaysia, I'm considered a foreigner. My daughter was just because at that time I was going to Miami. My husband wanted to take my daughter to process her passport and all that to Singapore. He's Malaysian. Imagine if that announcement came, she will be stuck in Singapore. My husband had to go back to Malaysia. We'll be separated. So again, I was like, oh, yes, I'm happy and grateful. At least we are all together. We're in this house together in Malaysia. So at least we're together. And then after that, I started to cry also, Mary, because I'm thinking, people are dying. I could die. Am I fulfilling my purpose? Have I done enough? That started to sink in. So it was all of this, like crying, lost money, crying because I'm grateful, crying because I could die tomorrow. Am I ready? Am I leaving my legacy? And, we talked about, before we want our legacy to be blah, 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 and all that. And I'm like, I'm not even there yet, So I could die any moment. I'm not sure what this virus is. Have we done enough? So all of those started to happen and sink in. So after that, after I kind of calmed down and met, we had a meeting. I said, my husband and I, we sat down. What are we going to do? And then we start like, let's find out about how do we go on this online stuff. We don't know anything. I'm not a tech person at all. The only time I know how to operate on Zoom is to click and attend someone else's Zoom. I've never hosted a Zoom. I don't even have an account. And what is this? All of this stuff. So we have a friend who runs a software development company in Canada. We called him and he was teaching us about his platform, and he was saying, hey, this is the database, you can get your customers like this. Very, very basic stuff. It's basic now because, after 1 year, you kind of like, you kind of learn and pick up. But at that time we were like, oh, okay, this is how you do online stuff, because all I did was market by email, I did previews, and that was how I got my business. So we moved our business all online then. Now, the challenges, that was one of the challenges I faced, was to get online. But what I saw, Mary, the challenges now, when you were talking just now, it was beyond just self, right? When you talk about racism, you talk about all the isms, and it is happening, right? The challenges I saw when that happened was in Malaysia itself, the gap started to widen, especially amongst the people who have and the people who do not have, the people who have access to technology and knowledge like myself. And you know, we were so grateful. Now, one of the 3 positive things that came out of it, in 1 month, last year, I made more than what we planned out for the whole year. That was how great it was for us. Because
Wow.
when we moved online, we started getting customers, clients from all over the world, from the US, from Japan, from Trinidad, Tobago. I've never been to Trinidad, Tobago, but we've got a real, you know, a good high-end client there. And it was like, Singapore, Malaysia, you know, of course, you know, we started to get clients all over the world. So that was something like, why didn't we think of this before? Why didn't we do this before? You know? So we were that clueless about technology. But what we saw around us was the gap was widening. There were a lot of suicides. You know, we had a friend who was talking to us, calling us, asking, how are you guys doing in your business? And, you know, my husband and I were going like, blah, 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 blah. We were so happy. And he was like, and we was like, oh yeah, sorry, how about you? And then he was like, I'm doing okay. You know, he's quite, you know, he's an investor, so he's got funds all over. And he said, like, you know, there are some SME owners in Malaysia that, you know, they are running a team of 30-something people start committing suicide. And he said, it's not one, a couple of people, like even pilots started committing suicide. Yeah. And he said he knows these people personally. And it's not written, it's not published in the papers.
Right. It's definitely not talked about a lot like that. So we've seen an emphasis here on teens and suicide because of the way that everything they've gone through with school changes and everything else, and being able to handle all of that whole thing. And I think in the beginning, we heard about a couple of cases of suicides and people being more suicidal as COVID was just starting to break out. But there have been many suicides, many because people were, everything was so unsettled and really didn't know up from down and what was happening. And there was so much risk on every level, not just in where they worked, but with their funds, with their families, with how they would provide, with every area, whether they would get COVID or not. There was risk from every direction, risk. So
so that was what we saw. Was you know, a friend of ours called us and said, you know, there are a lot of people. That's why he wanted to see how we were and all that. And that was like kind of sink in, like, yeah, the gap is widening, especially in technology. And I also called my helper. You know, she can't come to my house to clean, and she can't, you know, go to offices. So I called her and said, are you okay? She said, yeah, I've got enough food. If I'm hungry, I'll just fast, you know. Then I'm like, no, tell me honestly, do you have enough food and all that? She said, I'm okay. And I kind of sense, like, I said, I'm going to send some food to you. Tell you what, go and find out in your area how many people really need help and all that. And that's what she did. She went around, and she's never been in a leadership position in her community. So I told her what to do, connect with people, and that's what she did. She went around and she gave me a whole database of people. She sent me this person photos all by WhatsApp, this person, the story behind them, cannot work, how many children, has a disabled child, all this. And there were pictures, and I was like, let's contribute the money that we made, you know, in that month to these people. And from in that, what good that happened for us is that instead of just, you know, one community, we used to help only the local, like homeless and all that, right? And the refugees here in Kuala Lumpur. I've managed to reach out to five more groups of people outside of Kuala Lumpur. There are other parts of Malaysia that was also people without food in their kitchens. The Indonesian migrant community, the low-income Indonesian migrant communities that's here working as, you know, laborers. They had to stay home. Their kids can't go to school. They don't even have internet and phone. So all of these things, we reached out to them. we managed to raise funds to provide also for laptops for refugees so that they can at least do some online business, sell their food or something online, and their kids can learn from the internet. We've managed to reach out to even Cambodia, and more of our social impact in Cambodia. So what good came out of it? Because that, you know, I would say we're blessed that we learn the internet and technology fast, shifting and pivoting it online. There were a lot of people who do not even have access to a smartphone and internet, and these are the people that was, you know, the gap was widening, and there were a lot more homelessness here also. That's what happened that I saw. And that's one of the things that we incorporated in our business almost immediately, about two months down, April, I think we started in April or May last year, since the lockdown, to have a digital marketing course for refugees, so that, because we keep getting all of these calls every day. My phone is always ringing. Somebody doesn't even have food. Somebody's in the hospital, and, you know, they can't pay the bills and all that. So we started to, let's instead of just giving, let's teach them how to do this internet thing. So we had a digital marketing course that came out of it for refugees last year. And now we transformed that course to business mentorship. So it's going to be a higher level of coaching for them to come out of poverty. So that was one of the things that, the positive things that came out of it. Other challenges that I found, that my daughter was not very happy. She moved to a new school. She just moved to a new school. She was just learning to make friends, and now she's—
How old is your daughter?
She's 15.
Okay.
She's 15 now. So, you know, she's had to get online, and she would kind of misses her friends and all that. And that was when she did a lot of self-discovery for herself as well. And she told me that, you know, she possibly could have some learning disability because she just can't catch up. So I was like, no, you don't have a learning disability. You're smart and all that. I couldn't admit it. So after that, I got her a psychologist and found out that she has mild ADHD, and we got her help as much as possible. And I was thinking, you know, how many kids also face like her, you know, the change in the way they were schooling and the social interaction. They were going through challenges. So my daughter got supported. So I'm so great. We're grateful for that. And from what happened to her, she started to share with her other friends, and now they're also looking to get some help as well. And yeah, so right now what I am, I don't have the skill to do that, to coach young teenagers and children to come out of mental health issues or depression or learning disabilities. I have people in my clients list who have this knowledge. So this is what I encourage them to do also. And some of them have started doing programs for children as well. Especially with addiction to the devices, that came up, especially during COVID, addiction to devices. You know, one of my clients are actually helping their clients to come out of addiction with devices, and children with mental health issues as well, depression and all that. Yeah, so there's a lot of psychological challenges.
There's a— yeah, so in normal, I don't even know what's normal anymore, but
yeah,
pre-tech, if we were in a pandemic, there would still be a psychological factor that would play out for youth. But adding tech into all of that, it causes, I think, a higher spike. So I used to work with youth, and I used to work with youth with disabilities and ones that had specific issues. Some of them did have ADHD. Throughout all my studies, everything has said, the more you increase technology, the more issues youth usually have with ADHD or major attention issues, because of the fact that it is an electronical device. There's something within the electronical makeup of the device and the way it functions and the way your brain responds to it, that it can cause your attention span to be decreased.
Wow.
So going into lockdown and having to be on a device all day, it already causes issues like that in itself. Just causes a spike. So even if your child didn't have an issue before, they may have an issue now, right? Or it may be if they had a tendency before and you could pull them out of it. Like say sometimes they sat in class and they would get a little distracted. Now you have them in front of a device where a teacher is not even in front of them gaining their attention, right? It makes it a lot harder. So that little distraction is no longer a distraction. That's a whole big, huge ball being thrown at their head. Do you see what I'm saying? It's totally different. And the same thing with depression. The longer you're on an electronic device, the more likely you are to have depression happen because of the waves that come off the screen and everything, and the light that's emitted. So, I mean, those were studies done before the pandemic, right? Those were what we learned throughout our training as teachers and educators. And so to hear you saying what you're saying, I'm not surprised at all. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of work through for different people. Like, right. So right now here in the United States, even today, Biden said, like, last year around this time, almost all the schools were closed here. This year, we're 99% open for schools. So most of the children have gone back to school and they're just using their device, maybe using it in the classroom if the teacher's having them use it and then for their homework, but at least they're getting, at least they're back in the school and they're talking to other kids and they're interacting with people in a human way, right? In a real relationship way versus a tech interface. So
that makes sense. Yeah, of course.
Are schools open there right now? What are
now they are they open in stages. So it's like we had the senior kids go in first, and then they had to be vaccinated. The seniors, they had to be vaccinated before they go in. Kids who are not vaccinated still go online. So they have so that's how it works right now. And now they're fully functional. The schools are there and kids they're in school. So I hope that changes, that because that 1 year there's a lot.
So I think it will change. And there's two things I want to say before. I'm going to go to one other thing before I talk about the changes. So you bringing up the how you ended up going to all online everything for your programs. It's really good, and it really is a blessing, truly, because you were able to find the population to serve and all of that. But given everything else I already just said about like tech and issues with tech, one thing that we've really advocated for, and we recommend anybody to advocate for, is to have people take breaks from their tech too. So it's great to do online programs. It's great to do online coaching. It's great to serve people through an online platform, but you want to take breaks in between different things and not be on your screen all day, like 8 hours in a row, because your own mood will change so badly. For real.
It's true.
You will not notice that. You will not notice it until it's too late, until you've already had that change in your mood. And then you're like, what is wrong with me? Right? Like what's going on? And then you realize, oh, I've been on my device 18 hours today. That's probably what it is, right? So we just advocate that people take breaks. It's a lot. It helps a lot. It creates more of a balance. If you just get outside and go for a walk, or just sit down and read a book, or just change it a little bit, it works really well. For adults, it works really well.
And kids are also, that's exactly that, because they're on the device the whole time. It's 8 hours in school, right? So it's like 8 hours online, and then just short breaks, lunch breaks, prayer breaks, and then come back again. And it's again device.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I have two children, and one of them did. I don't remember if I've said this in a recording before or not. Maybe I have. I think I have once, but I'll I won't say everything exactly the same. There's no way I can. I have 2 children. They're both boys. They're the same age. They're twins, and they just turned 16 this year. So they were 14 to 15, 15 to 16 during lockdown or pandemic. I'll call it that. One of them, they both had issues. They both are really good. Usually they both are very social, and but they're also both very attentive to their schoolwork. And when they're not, they know it, and we call them out on it, and they fix it. That's usually what happens. So if something goes wrong, like say a grade drops, they're usually pretty good about turning it around. And they learned a lesson a long time ago before the pandemic, when their grades dropped, that they need to really pay attention and pull their grades up or whatever. So they were pretty good with that. But once we went into COVID, one of them totally isolated himself in his room and didn't come out and stayed on his device all day, and his grades ended up skyrocketing really well, straight A's, but his social skills went to 0. Like he was like, didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to be around anybody, wouldn't eat dinner with people. Like, so there was that. And then the other one, again, not okay. Yeah. I can laugh about it right now because we've addressed this and I've had to talk them through it. Yeah. You know, I didn't ignore that. I was like, no, you have to actually talk to people, you know, and really work through that part. The other child, he started out really well, but again, if he gets distracted, he's not so easy to pull himself out of that distraction, right? So he would go to class online, but he wasn't really going to class. He was playing a game, right? On his device. Yeah. We realized, okay, I had to work through the principal with it, what he was doing, right? But he had to unengage from that and put himself back into academics. And he did fix himself in that way. Yeah. We did work it out for him and, you know, helped him with that. But he had kind of gone the opposite direction. He did the games and went down this whole social path and played the games so he could talk to people when he was playing the games and not actually do the stuff for his classes. So we've seen it.
How old is he? How old is the second
He's 16 now, and he's doing much better now. Yeah, he was 14 to 15. So he turned 15 last July. So that was 14 to 15 in lockdown. And yeah, he's doing much better. But at that, you know, it took a little while for all of us to realize what was really happening, because originally I was like, well, he's so good. He usually goes to his classes. I can't imagine he's missing every class. He must have an internet connection problem, is what I thought it was.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I really internet connection. The benefit of the doubt. I was like, he did have a device problem. But they fixed it and they got him a new device. But they realized, like, they looked at his trend and they realized, no, he's saying he's in class and he's not in class. He's like on his device, but he's not actually in class. So yeah. And again, that's not something he would normally do. Like if he was in school, he would never skip class ever. Yeah. He would never do that. Right. But he didn't even know that that's what he was doing. Yeah. He would never see it as that. He was like playing, he was technically sitting in front of his computer screen.
The teacher was
I'm at class. You know, no, you're not. You're telling me you're not. So that was a problem, and he's one of the good students. So it ended up like totally crashing. And the other one, you know, he's a straight A student, and he ended up in this direction of, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not coming out of my room. You know.
How old is that one? How is that?
Same. Son? He was 14 to 15.
Oh, okay.
And they were transitioning from freshman to sophomore year in high school. So, and they're doing much better now. But they did go through that. And that's just one of the many cases that youth went through with major changes during the pandemic, where they were really challenged also and had to find their way, and but also for us as parents and as educators and even as community people, to really be supportive of youth during this time is also really important. So I'm glad that you're saying to people, you might want to actually work with kids too right now, because they need help.
Yes. And that's where the change comes, because they'll be the ones leading this earth, in the generations to come. So,
and if it's going to stay so digital, if everything we do is going to stay so digital and so tech related, then we need to find a better way to make that function well for everyone.